As soon as it comes up,
We are live. We're live now.
We're live. We're live. There we are. We're live. We're fresh from the No Name Nationals.
Yeah,
man.
we're back.
We're
back and unloaded. We got everything kind of situated at home. Yeah, I was dreading unloading everything, and it took me like a little over an hour just to unload everything, and it's nothing.
I had a bunch of help unloading. It sucked loading at the track because it was hot, and I was on Saturday afternoon. I was tired, and I was like, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
All right, let's go down the thing. We got Tall Garage, we got Stevens, we got Twisted Mopar Garage, we got Michael Schmidt, got Patrick. Silent Daily Garage is in here. Patrick back. A Cove. Oh, that's a new one. Silent Daily Garage, Rapid Transit Garage, NSB Custom Cars, Rapid Transit Garage. We got Patrick again, NSB. Rapid Transit Garage, Mostly Old Parts and Rust, NSB Customs, First Responder, Rapid Transit, Patrick, Junkyard D, David James, NSB Customs, First Responders, Buff Del Campo, man, they're getting big here. Patrick, One-Eyed Cat, NSB Cars, First Responders, Rapid Transit, Airy, and Dan, First Responders, Backwoods, Custom Crap, I like that one. Got Patrick, Junkyard D, Rick, 38 POS Racing, Patrick, and Mr. John Wilburn. I like that. The bringer of the No Name Nationals right there. The man himself. The man, the myth, the legend.
He's calling you out, too. He says that you were 1.32 seconds late pushing the button to go live. Not that he would know about such things.
He was 1 second late on the tree. So, okay, that's fair enough. I can live
So
with
we got
that.
to stay 1.32 seconds longer now.
Yeah, we'll stay. Dude, on my end, I hit it right on time, so I don't know. It just probably took a second for it. That was the delay. Let's put it that way. We're going to call that delay. Hey, is NSB Custom Cars, is that the one who raced, he had the Linko Dart? Is that them?
Yeah, that's Lee and Dean.
Lee and Dean, man, awesome. Yeah, those guys are cool, man. I dig their car. I dig that thing.
They're just a top-notch group. If you notice that they brought a tire changing machine, and I don't know how many times they used it this weekend, but I would have to say it's like 1 billion.
I heard that thing running constantly.
Yeah, they were using it a lot. And,
yeah, it was awesome.
There was a lot of people changing tires and stuff. So that's one of those nice to haves at the No Name Nationals, is where, our family, I guess, extends so far to some technicians for Coates Tire, the tire machines, that they bring one with them, and and break down people's tires at the track. Yeah,
that was awesome. And John Cope, man, he got me a little trinket. I got one of those little Silent Daily Garage little LED light up deals.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And one that hangs for the tree. So, yeah.
Well, so Backwoods Custom Crap is saying in was a blast.
Yes.
Did you have a blast?
Dude, I'm telling you, I did. I was living vicariously through you. Let's put it that way. You were the hero. I was kind of the zero. You know what I mean? I didn't really. The car that I brought, I just couldn't get it to hook. I went there expecting. Here's what I went there expecting. I went there expecting at least a somewhat prepared track. Now that's my. I knew that going in there that I had some specific testing that I needed to do, and I have to forego those basically until next Monday. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to be able to race down the track with no traction control, and what I'm testing, I needed full throttle, full hookup, so that way it could be recorded. I just couldn't get that, especially on Friday. Saturday, I got it one time. In fact, the one time I didn't have my computer reading it, it was actually with Mr. Wilburn. It's the only time the car ever hooked and booked. It went.
And to, I guess, somewhat defend the track, they had been struck by lightning in like May or June, right? So the track didn't run for like 3 months, and they literally were working on the timing system up until Thursday evening.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to get just what they had there. If you notice, none of the boards worked. None of the dial-in boards worked. The 330 foot mark was taken out, and a lot of that was because of the whole system had been struck by lightning. And I mean, they literally worked their butt off trying to get just stage beams working.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying that that's what I was going to get to, is because that was the first time the track's been used in 3 months. So,
Right.
and things happen. So it just is what it is. But I was expecting a little bit better of a turnout from the Charger. But once again, it just is what it is. I tried it from 22 pounds actually went from 26 pounds of air pressure all the way down to 16 on a drag radial, and I still couldn't get anything. Now, if I had turned the traction control on, it'd have been a different story, but I needed to test it without the traction control.
Well, Junkyard D saying you look the best on the beach cruiser, though, Shane.
Right. Dude,
to be honest with you, Shane was over there helping me thrash to get the rear suspension set up on this thing.
Yeah.
Him and Andrew Nelson was really trying to help me get it sorted out so the car would hook. And I'm glad both of them were there, because it was like, I'm a lost cause when it comes to this rear suspension setup. If it's not a perfectly prepped track, it's like, what do you do? And them guys knew what to do. So we got it sorted out and running just like a rail,
And that's what I'm really happy that Nelson was there too, the Nelsons, because when you're recording, you're looking through a screen. You know what I mean? And you go back and look. It's one thing to look through a screen and see it recorded. You can just see how the car is going. But if you're not directly behind it, you can't tell if it's shifting left or right or what's going on. It was hard for me to see it, and I'm glad that they could see that it was unloading to the right. The rear end was going to the right, so that was good.
Yeah. Well, Buff is saying that Dallas did the world's greatest Thunderbird burnout. Kim videoed it. It's in my latest video.
It is good, man. I was standing right there, and it was definitely an animal gym. It was one of those burnouts. Just,
well, I was trying to pay homage to him, but no, good. In reality, I knew I had to lay down some good fresh tracks to get the dang thing to hook, and then I got to get in the groove to launch it. I didn't know how it was going to go on those. Those are smaller tires than I normally run, right? It normally would run a 30/9 slick, which doesn't sound like much difference, but the taller tire helps quite a bit.
Patch. Yeah, contact patch long is better than contact patch wide.
Right.
By a long shot.
I guess Roland told me, he said that when you did that first burnout, everybody at N&N stopped what they were doing, and it just got quiet, and everybody went to the fence, right? And I'm like, oh, well, that's how it should have been.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that was pretty good. And then, I put... someone made a Facebook page that has all the little AHRA No Name National thing, and I put up your 3 videos. If you're on that,
I was geeking on them today.
It's pretty good, huh?
Yeah, well, the last few passes when you and Andrew helped me get the rear suspension sorted out, the thing actually kind of looks like an 80s Pro Stocker, where it lifts that one wheel on the driver's side and carries it about 3-4 inches up in the air.
Yeah,
and then and then it goes out to like the 330-foot mark, right? But it went straight as a string, and I couldn't hope for anything better,
Yeah.
So it was hooking up pretty good. I started losing power, to be honest with you, throughout the weekend. I had the fuel pump going bad. The primary fuel pump was going bad, and I didn't know. And you and I were like, remember, I came back to the pits and I said, man, I think it's almost out of fuel. I can hear the fuel pump really loud. And then we popped the trunk, and there was like, all the fuel was still in there. What's going on?
Yeah.
And it was because that fuel pump was going bad, and it started losing mile an hour, and it started losing 60 foot. And I really think what's going on with that thing is that I'm at the max limit of those 43 pound per hour lightning injectors.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's taking its toll on it. They're virtually 100% duty cycle to try to keep up with that thing going down the track, and that pump can't handle that. The pump is supposed to be able to support 650 horsepower, but the motor, I think, is making more than that. So.
It definitely is. Just by the mile an hour, you could do it by the mile. The time was a little off, but the mile an hour was there for more power.
Right.
Yeah. And as a lot of you guys didn't know that I didn't make it, obviously, with my car. The very last day before we were getting ready to pack up, I had bled the brakes earlier, and it felt a little spongy. The wife was in there bleeding them, and then I wanted to go in there and do one last little bleeding on them, and it literally went to the floor, and it blew out. And it was, I called up Dallas and I said, Dallas, I could have gone down and got a master cylinder and thrown it on there and done all this stuff. But it was one of those things I just didn't want to force it. It just seems forced.
Nothing ever works out when you force it. You end up, you miss things, you overlook things.
Yep.
You're just trying to get that one thing solved, right?
Yeah.
And so,
especially when you're going to be, that engine makes between 650 and 700 horse, and then you're going to put in, a 350 shot on top of it. So,
right.
You
would have probably had a pants full of diaper, like poo, like exploded poo. It would have been number 3 in there if you would have went down that track with that car on nitrous. It would have scared you to death.
Yeah, and I've gone down a track with no brakes before at Wild Horse Pass. I was coming up. I was pulling in, and the reason this happens is I have fender well headers. So the fender well headers come over, and I've got about 2 inches underneath one of the headers. Even though I've got it wrapped, it's a 66 Star with the A body. They got Hooker Headman Hustlers on there. Headman Hustler. Sorry, and right underneath it, I have this little diaper there. And it still boils the brakes on it. So this just happened to be the one time I go in there and I'm pressing on the brakes and they're feeling funny and I feel my foot getting wet and I'm in the burnout box. And this is like the right before the semifinals. I hit the line lock, I do my burnout, and I'm going up, and luckily car's got a trans brake. So I go up in there, I do the race, and this is a quarter mile. And then I do the dump at the end because at the time I couldn't go faster than 10.0. So I was a 10.05 is what my dial in was. And so I ran through the lights and I got to the finals. Came back around, we're trying to bleed this thing, and it's literally leaking fluid out. So I'm just like, well, I'm just going to go up there. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I go up in there, and if you've ever been to Wild Horse Pass, you have to make a really tight turn to get into that, right? And so I made on the outside lane. And you go down the track, and at the end of the track, it's like kind of a road race. It has a gradual turn to the left that gets progressively tighter. If you Google Wild Horse Pass, you'll see what I'm talking about right there in Phoenix. And so I'm in the right lane, and I'm having to pump the brakes, and I'm watching the fluid pour on the inside. I get up there, and I line lock it, and the guy beat me. He was just a better bracket racer than I was. When on the other end, I had to stop. And it was one of those moments where you hit the brakes, fluid comes out, you really don't slow down. Luckily, the car had an e-brake, and I was pulling on the e-brake slightly like this, and I'm like, man, I'm not slowing down. It's either do I make the left and go for that autocross moment, or do I go into the gravel? And I went to the left, and I'm going around that corner. It's all imagine that, the Hoosier fronts, Yeah,
and you get the spool in the rear, so it doesn't want to turn.
Spool. Yeah, luckily it's a big, long, gradual turn, and I just kept pulling on the e-brake, and it was one of the very few times that I downshifted the engine. I went from drive to second to downshift.
I always do that at the end of the pass.
Yeah, I try not to because the rod bolts. That's the worst you can do on the rod bolt. High RPM.
Oh, I'm not zinging it or anything. I just wait. I let off the gas, start pressing the brakes. When I feel the brakes start to get hot and dig in really good,
yep,
that's when I drop it down in a second. So you might be running like 70 miles an hour or something.
Oh, okay, yeah. On mine, I literally have a clean neutral on mine. So as soon as I go through there, I pull neutral. I let off the throttle, and then hit the brakes, and then I go into clean neutral, and then I use the brakes to stop. And then I'll put it into second, and then come back around in second.
Well, NSB Custom Car said Dallas did an awesome job getting the bird to hook and book. We were on big tires and had issues. We got it somewhat figured out, learned a few things. Yeah, that track was like go stiff, full stiff on the suspension.
Yeah.
that was about all you got. That was the only way to get it to hook up. We played with tire pressure, and I think we ended up at about 11 pounds, I guess. And with the video that Andrew Nelson took, he said that we probably needed another pound in the tire, and that would have given me some more mile an hour, actually. But,
I agree that you should have had another pound, but I didn't want to play with the combination.
It was hooking, and so that's what we're shooting for. It was just in Man, I tell you what, there was nothing sketchier in that first pass. I let everybody run for like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours to get the track worked in, and I figured I'll go up there and make a pass, and that sucker was like dancing on marbles, man.
Well, even at 12 pounds, though, you weren't running over the tire. The tire wasn't folding underneath there. That was the one thing I was looking at, because that would tell you, like, if you went down probably another half a pound, it would have started folding on top of it. There was one time you did tire shake, though, pretty good.
Yeah, that was the first pass.
Yeah.
That was the first pass. The tire shook through first and second.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really experienced that before. I've never had a high horsepower car like that before. So that tunnel ram was definitely worth it, because, I mean, I probably picked up 50 to 60 horsepower, I'm sure, because it went up 4 miles an hour in the eighth, which is a lot. Right?
Massive. That's massive. Well, I'm not sure where I'm at on the questions here, but Dust Devil Garage is saying, Shane, are you going to get to fix up the Cookie Monster for next year, or are you going Gen 3? You know what? It really, the LA's in there, and I have the nitrous on it. I'm going to run it until the crank falls out of it. That's basically what's going to happen.
I think you should do that. I think you should just finish it up and bring it to end next year. Because you got a shot at taking them all out in the 28-10-5.
Oh, yeah. No, I also have Gen 3 Hemi stuff. So, I mean, the car's set up now for whatever combination I have. So, the Glide and the Ford 9-inch. Now, the one thing I am going to put in there that I didn't have is a roll, basically an anti-roll bar, in the back. So
right.
I'm going to put one of those in there. Definitely, I was kind of skipping over that, but whenever you get up near 1,000 horsepower, it's definitely good to have one, especially if you're hitting it on a Power Glide.
I'm just looking at this comment Andy put up here. If you go 2 down from that one, Andy says, "Howdy, folks. Tunnel Ram Mafia in the house. Dallas, tell everyone how you like Tunnel Ram life." It was good. It was good. Yeah, it picked up big time. And what I did notice is that Shane and I were laughing about was it used to be so easy to start. You'd go up there and start it up, and it had all the velocity from the intake manifold being so much smaller. It would start right up easy and idle at like 1,000 RPM and be good to go, less like a regular fuel injected car. Now it just didn't even want to run. Like
not anymore.
Yeah, it didn't even. And if I played with the throttle, like the idle setting on it anymore, it'd be at 1,500 RPM or it'd be nothing. And so it was just hard to start. And once you did get it started, you had to get it warm before it would actually idle. So
yeah. I did notice that too, but it just sounds, I do remember that car quite a bit. It's been some years, but it always seems so mild before.
Yeah, I know. Now it sounds just mean.
Yeah, it sounds angry. It sounds crack. It's like crack, 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 crack. It's good. So
yeah.
Tom Brown's asking, speaking of tire pressure, has anyone ever set their pressure, then did a burnout, and then rechecked the pressure right after? I wonder how much the heat in the tire increases with.
It's usually a couple pounds.
Yeah, well. On my tire, that's a 28 10.5 stiff wall. Now I do have this all documented, because I would go up there with 13 pounds. I do the burnout. I go down the track, and then at the end I would check it. And for me, it was only half a pound. It would raise up. For me, that's all it was on mine.
It depends how much volume you have in the tire and all that. Yep. But I mean, and I guess it depends what kind of burnout you do. I was doing pro stock 1980s burnouts, right? I mean. The whole point of this is to get people excited. And all right, so if you ask me, like, the reason why I wanted to do AHRA is because a lot of it was all the stuff had become mundane in the NHRA and IHRA. Everybody was all about saving money. They were all about saving time. They were all about, not putting on a show. And if you notice, it's like all the races that they have now come down to the stripe. Well, where's the stands? The stands are up the opposite end of the track where everything sets up. What you're doing is you're building up the suspense and then giving them the release. Mm-hmm. And the stripe is just kind of an afterthought. It's like, oh, yeah, he won. Okay, yeah, cool. But you got to give them something exciting to see. And burnouts, big-time burnouts through the lights, that's exciting to see. And mm-hmm. people like that stuff. That's just my take on it. If you're trying to be cheap on slicks, we're having one event per year. I mean, dang, your slicks probably got 100 passes they could make. And if you got only one time a year to do it, you could easily let's have at it.
Have at it. Have fun. And then also too, if you store your tires correctly, they can go 2 or 3 years. As long as you don't leave them on the concrete.
Buff's asking violin practice. Yes, my daughter's practicing violin right now downstairs.
Oh. Colleen's asking, Shane, what did everyone think of the lashes? Lashes are still on the car currently. In fact, even right now. And I am going to go to Jackson. I'm going to Jackson drag strip this weekend on Saturday. They're having like a no prep race there. I'm going to leave the lashes on that. And then on Monday, I'm going to be at Holly Springs doing my testing on the car.
Here's something I think that we should address. Sure. Okay, so Fire Pinto here says nitrogen in the tires is supposed to not change pressure with heat. That's true. That's what they're saying, that they don't lose pressure or anything like that based on temperature outside. But
molecules bigger.
Okay, nitrogen in your tires, when you go get a nitrogen rig to fill up your tires, it's like mucho expensive.
Exactly.
Okay. The other thing is, what is our atmosphere made up of? Well, I'll give you an idea. It's like 70% nitrogen, right? So if you just have a regular air compressor, you're primarily putting nitrogen in there anyway.
Yeah.
It won't change all that much just based on temperature. I think that nitrogen thing is more or less a farce. The reason why I say that is there's so many things that have come about in the past 30 years that are just considerably more expensive than they are cost effective, right? Like, okay, and I'll, before everybody starts beating me down, right? EFI is one of those things. EFI is a very expensive carburetor setup, right? You got super big pump, you got super big lines, you got super fine filters, you got injectors, a computer, a wiring harness, the whole 9 yards. And when it's all said and done, it runs about the same on a drag strip as 2 carburetors, okay? And the thing I don't like about EFI is that, if you had a carburetor setup, let's say you had a mechanical pump on your motor, right? Well, when I was a youngster, mechanical pumps went away if you went drag racing, period.
Yeah.
Okay? They just didn't provide enough fuel. They couldn't flow the volume needed to keep that carburetor full. Well, that's changed significantly. And there's a guy like Rob MC, he makes the pumps for the Buicks. Matter of fact, they make so much volume that they'll actually fill the float bowl and then start spilling out of the float bowl if your engine does not use enough fuel, right?
Yeah.
And so there is some serious mechanical pumps out there in today's day and age, and they can flow. So you can have a very cost-effective fuel system. You don't have to go EFI. The only reason I went EFI is I did this project way back in 2011 when the stuff was brand new, right? And I got Holley EFI when it was like in its infancy. No one even knew how to hook it up to a Ford TFI distributor. And I'm like, well, I'll prove them. I'll get it all done, right? Well, I tell you what, after like 700 phone calls to the Holley tech line and talking to this guy named Danny Cabral, no relation to any other Cabrals that you may know, but he was the guy that was pretty much the inside track brainchild behind some of this EFI stuff and for Holley. And he helped me get it figured out and take the trigger wire from the Hall effect sensor to the MSD box and trigger the MSD box, because it was hard to, I could have ran the TFI or I could have ran an MSD box, but it was hard to do both, and nobody knew what to do to make it work. And this guy helped me figure it out. But now after having it since 2011, I guess, the only benefits I've seen from it so far is that it doesn't use as much fuel at the track as like a carbureted car would.
Yeah.
But that changed significantly at No Name Nationals, where I made 3 passes and it used 5 gallons of fuel, and it's not alcohol. Okay, so it's thirsty now. It does like fuel.
It enjoys it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom Brown's. Wonder how much it would cost to get Showboat to come do expedition burnouts all the way down the track like the old days. That would get me fired up.
What I was thinking of, I like the exhibition stuff from the 60s and 70s, and there's a guy named Captain Jack McClure. If you don't, do you know who this is, Shane? You never heard of this guy? He's the original Rocket Man. Okay.
Yeah. We talked about this guy a long time ago. Yeah.
He has a go-kart with a hydrogen peroxide rocket on the back.
Yep.
And he's trying to go, I want to say 300 miles an hour in the eighth. I think that's what he's shooting for, something like that. And this is a go-kart, okay? This guy is like 94 years old, and he's got gonads big enough that if he threw them out, it'd probably stop the cart. Because there's no way you'd strap me into something like that, a turbo go-kart. But that would be the guy I'd want to see. Now, unfortunately, for anybody who's ran down Jeffers Motorsports Park, that the big end shutdown area down there would not handle some go-kart because it is fairly rough. It's got like some whoop-de-dee-doos in the end. And that go-kart would be like space-bound, like moon-bound if he hit those things.
Right?
Yeah. I really want to try that. I would really like to get that dude out there. He's 90-something years old, like 94. And he's doing...
if you're going to go out in style. I mean, why
go
not?
out with a smile on your face?
Yeah, he's 94. What does he care? I'm going to go 300 miles an hour.
Well, the first time I called him, he was like 92, and he was like, I've been through 4 wives, and I've outlived 3 of them. Like, all right, dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the main reason why, too. I put the kibosh on my car is when the brakes weren't what I would consider up to snuff. I've been to that track a few times. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna call it. That is what it is.
So Busted Radio Garage just showed up. And they did a fantastic meltdown in their what do you have, a Roadrunner, right? And that we had. That was such a gorgeous car. I'm surprised you're doing burnouts in it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was standing there and I was like, man, is he going to try to blow the tires? Because that quarter panel is going to be gone, because it just wads them up.
Yeah, I just didn't expect a car that nice to be out there doing burnouts.
Yeah.
And then somebody told me it was a burnout car, and I'm like, oh, well, that kind of makes more sense, But geez, black paint job, you think like any little dent in that and people would cringe, right? And here you are flinging a radial around like it's out of style,
Yeah.
And but I'm gonna tell you right now, me and Shane have been talking on the phone. We're coming for the burnout contest next year.
Oh yes,
you better step it up.
Step it up large.
Yeah, we got a plan.
We got plans. We got a plan. We got a direction, and we have a goal. Even though it's only been a couple days, it's already in the works. So, oh yeah. Let's see here. Where are we going down? Nitrogen is bigger molecule. Will the bars stop tire? All nitrogen keeps out oxygen, and it's corrosive properties too. Yeah, the thing is that I like having control. I like having a pump that I can just, like when I filled up your tires. Remember that?
That little Vire compressor. I had one of those. You remember? It used to be my trailer.
Yeah.
I sold my trailer to Dr. Art, and then he sold it to a buddy, or his buddy borrowed it and crashed it or something. I kind of wish I still had that setup because it was such a nice compressor setup.
Yeah, and I love it. Actually, what I have for is for the airbags on my truck, so I can plug it into the back and it pumps them up. Also, too, for cars too. So, so I'm happy about that. Oh, Fire Pinto. I have an idea for burnout car, but man, what a whole other project to take on. Yes, well, that's why you start now.
Yeah, you get 362 days, I guess, to get it done.
Well, this Friday, we're going to see an orange sticker for Mr. John Wilburn, right?
No, not this Friday. They don't want to make anything announced until New Year's, right?
Oh.
And, I've been holding on to this New Year's thing I've wanted to do now for, this would be the 3rd year, I guess.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's driving me nuts, man, that I can never get it accomplished because, the first year, Tony didn't want to do it. And then the second year, I got COVID, right? Mm-hmm. And then, the 3rd year, I don't remember what happened.
What do you want to do? You want to announce it here?
Okay. No, I'll say it,
Let's do it.
I was going to do this cool thing on New Year's Eve. You know how they got the ball drop in New York City?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to do a thing called the New Year's Eve rod drop. And we get a motor with a rod hammering or something already. And everybody picks a block at what time the rod comes out of the block, right? And you start it up right at midnight, and you hold that sucker wide open until the rod just, hey, here I am, And that person wins what everybody throws in, But then you announce what you're going to do.
Dude, that sounds like an awesome time.
I think it would be cool because I bet you there'd be a ton of people on YouTube wanting to watch that.
Yeah, right? Or, do a Super Bowl time, because who wants to watch anything on the Super Bowl where there's some, let's do it, do a live, rod explosion, everybody you put $5 in, and if you get it to the second, you get the money. You know what I mean? That would be cool.
Oh, Buff's asking. Okay, he says, I'm having trouble with the AHRA website. How do I pay my dues? Don't worry about your dues right now. I extended everybody's membership out a year in May when my life went to crap. And I shut the website down because I didn't want to have to pay for it this year, not knowing what I'm going to be doing. It felt pretty dumb carrying that website when it was cost me almost $1,000 a year.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I don't know how AHR is going to go next year. We may just do no-name nationals. That's the only thing I end up doing. But right now I'm trying to get my life in order, and the last thing I need is something that's going to distract me from everything that's important.
Yeah.
But so that's why I extended everybody's membership dues out a year. The best thing you can do if you want to do something, just get on eBay and buy some merch, and that'll ensure that we'll be around for a little while. And I'll get this thing figured. Once I get this whole life thing figured out, then maybe we'll get back at it. I don't know what's going to happen yet. I wouldn't mind just carrying a couple events a year, and then not necessarily having to be a sanctioning body to where you have to find tracks. It's too time consuming, and then there's too much travel involved, and I'm probably going to end up having to raise my kids myself. So that's what I'm preparing to do.
Mm-hmm. Aaron's saying here that do it at halftime. So yes, I would do it definitely at halftime. First Responder Garage has actually got a first tech question. Shannon Dallas, the Durango likes timing, and I'm thinking it's too much. I was at 30 for my start tuning now. I'm finally having some tuning and giving it more timing at No Name Nationals. I'm at 34 and it spins fast.
Yeah.
Fast, dude. 34 degrees is about right for most Magnums, or even LA's at that. My race car is about 34 degrees. Some of the lower compression ones like 34 to 36. But yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, there's a lot of the wedge head engines designs are always around 30 to 36.
Yeah, in that range, 32 to 36. Chevrolets, small block Chevys, and small block Mopars are right about the same number, 34 to 36.
It's all dependent upon the efficiency of the head. Me and Shane were talking about this the other day. Yeah. My T-Bird likes 29, right, which is usually not a number.
Yeah.
And I tried it. I went to 30 and it lost 30 horsepower. And
super efficient head.
Yeah.
That's why I like the Gen 3 Hemis, because they're like 22 degrees.
That's nuts, man.
Yeah, it's like 22 degrees. Yeah, that's good. You can get them up, if you put like really good fuel in them, you can get up to like, say, 25, but you're not really gaining much at that point. But yeah, 22 degrees is about where it's at. It's crazy. To figure out. Oh, here, Patrick saying, do a brick in and take the old car and put the brake on the accelerator and let it rev. That'd be awesome. Oh, we got our first
super chat.
Yeah,
put this in the AHRA coffers. Maybe a few others will do this. The AHRA is awesome. Well, thanks, Buff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll try. Unfortunately, I'm just having some life stuff tackling me at the moment, which is slowing down everything with the AHRA. It's actually putting a big hindrance on me, because I am unwilling to focus a ton of time on the AHRA at the moment. Yeah.
And Buff, I expect to see some sort of video on that load spreader when you guys get that thing on there. So.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Buff Del Campo.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you. See where I'm. Beyond that, I got to tell you though that as far as turnout at the No Name Nationals, I think it was a massive turnout as far as cars. I was expecting some faster cars.
Well, you got to think. Okay, there was the 2810-5 class.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right, Punisher Ray, he had the rear end go out in his Le Mans.
Oh,
and then Dylan Levi started knocking a rod. He was knocking on heaven's door after the first day. And I don't know if it had anything to do with the track being kind of a little bit soft, I have no idea. I don't know if he knocked the tires loose and over-revved the motor or whatever he did. But he said, I got a tap in there. And I said, can you feel it in the gas pedal and the steering wheel? Oh, I don't know. I said, go back and check it. Yeah, you can. I'm like, you got a rod knocking, right? So I take it home, save what you got.
Tom Brown's asking a question. I
Hold
know
on,
what
there
I
is
do.
one from Colleen up here
Oh,
further that says, Shane, you missed my question.
oh,
So let me see.
I'll go back and look at it in a second. I'll try to find it. Tom Brown, Tech, what are you guys' thoughts on using Fargo oil when long-term storage in engine? Here's what I use. Believe it or not, is ATF. ATF works. It's cheap. It's inexpensive, and it stays on there. And it's thin enough to where it will stay, and it will burn off. I've personally never used Fargo oil because everything at the time I couldn't afford this stuff. So ATF I always seem to have around. Have you ever used a Fargo oil?
I never have. Nope.
No.
I'm a big proponent of just oiling it down with an oil can,
Yeah.
and then turn it over a couple times by hand.
Yeah.
And then what I do is, I pull all the rockers off, right? So you pull the rockers loose, so that way you
There's
don't
nothing
have one
open.
spring that's just bound all the way down, because guaranteed there's one of them all the way down. And when you compress them like that, they don't like being compressed that long. They will actually start to take shape of that. And so I pull all the rockers off, I drain all the fluids out, and I actually put like Lucas oil stabilizer in the cylinder, and then I turn it over, and then I'll put all my plugs back in and just let her sit. But and as far as, I'll tell you the one thing that's the most corrosive, because I mean, you can get away with letting it sit for 6-8 months with no fogger oil in it at all and not doing any of that stuff, is the fuel. The race fuel these days has so much methanol in it for oxygenation. It will destroy a carburetor or a fuel pump
Eat it.
or a filter. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
And
eat
so I always just drain that stuff out completely, and I put it back in the race fuel can that it came in, and then I'll just put it right back in the car in the springtime.
Colleen, I think I found her question. I think it's right here. Colleen's asking, does Epsom salt work to rejuvenate batteries? What's the science behind it? I have never used Epsom salt to rejuvenate batteries.
I've done it with aspirin.
What's that?
I've done it with aspirin.
All I've ever done is when I worked at a parts store way back when, we would just turn them on a ton of amperage and let them boil. And then, so then I started, my stick welder. I just put them up to like say 20. I started them at 25. Well, first I open them up, make sure they're full first, so that way there's no lead.
Right, you top them off with just some sulfuric acid.
Yeah, whatever, or just even distilled water, whatever it is, right? And then I'll get it hot, and I'll turn it up to 25 amps, and then I'll just check to make sure I don't have a shorted out, cell. And then I'll turn it up to 50 amps, and I'll just let that thing you'll watch them kind of boil. And then I'll just run at 50 amps for a while, and all you're trying to do is just getting the sulfites off of it. It's what you're really trying to do.
Did you ever see the battery wall that used to be at Sears? They used to have like the first time I ever seen it was the Sears at Mission Bay, right? And the one that was there at the mall that left a long time ago.
Yeah.
They had a whole entire wall. It was filled with diehard batteries. And I'm like, what are you guys doing there? He's like, all those batteries are hooked up in a parallel, right? And they got max amperage from this old, like, 1940s charger, right? And it's not the little thing like you'd see from Schumacher. It's like literally got wheels on it, the whole 9 yards, fans, cooling fans, all kinds of stuff. And they have it on max charging amperage, which was probably 50 or 60 amps. And they leave them all in parallel, and they leave it there for like a week. And it would just cook all the exterior of the plate off.
That's right. Yeah,
And
sulfites,
then, yeah, and then it would be like
Sulfates,
a brand new battery again.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we did is we'd boil them out, and then they would just be like rejuvenate them. And in fact, that's why if you look at some like on the Cookie Monster or even the Beaver, those batteries are from like 2016. And the reason why I keep them so long and they work is that first off I keep them topped off. But every once in a while, I'll just hit them with a ton of amperage for a while, get them hot, and then they just keep working.
Well, I don't know if it was you or Wilburn. When I opened up the trunk lid to the T-Bird, it's got 2 Optima batteries in it, 2 Optima deep cycle yellow tops, right? It wasn't. Was it you or him? Was it you that said this? Like, my God, the batteries from like 2012. right?
No, that wasn't me. Well,
He said, "What?"
Yeah, that must have been Wilburn because you commented to me about it. Like Wilburn was telling me about those things from 2012. You're like, well, they're Optimus, man.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, they haven't let me down yet, so I'm just keep on going.
Big Block 402, getting the wheel alignment on Candy King tomorrow. Have a few parades to attend before I take it down for upgrades. Here's the thing, is that I want to give this guy, 2 thumbs up. I completely forgot my helmet, my jacket, and everything. I had it in my blue car, and when I changed cars at the very last minute, I forgot it. For a T-shirt, he let me borrow a real deal helmet for the whole weekend. So I want to give thank you, man. I appreciate it.
To Steven Myrick?
He basically let me borrow a helmet the whole. He's like, dude, I got an extra helmet. Yeah, no problem. I was like, sweet. Here's a T-shirt. Thank you. So. Yeah. Now, Colleen's saying that watched a video today using Epsom salt, trying it now. Video coming soon. We'll see. I really don't know. If anything, the science behind it would be the sulfates or the sulfides. That's all you're really trying to get off onto the plates is basically the buildup. And so with the heat and the bubbling, that's actually what you're going to do is you're going to bubble that off. With the Epsom salt, it might do the exact same thing.
Patrick here, mostly old parts and Russ, is saying that I couldn't launch on the brake; it would spin, but I could foot brake it and seemed to like it. Personal best in both ET and mile an hour. That's because you're flashing the converter.
Yeah,
that's why it's doing that. And your converter might be more prone to, or it might be more happy to work in that situation where you flash it. Because there's some guys, like when I was a young pup at the drag strip, there was 2 schools of thought, okay? It was always bring the engine up against the converter. So you bring it up to, like, say, 1,500 RPM and then launch it, okay? All of the twist was out of the drive shaft. All that tension was in there, and it was ready to go. Then the other school of thought was let it idle. And then when you get up there and you want to mat it.
Yeah, because it'll flash it.
Yeah, it'll flash the converter and the car will leave harder.
Yeah, ideally you're going to want your converter, like, so let's say your peak torque is, you say, 4,000 RPM. You're going to want your converter 3,500 so that way you can flash it. That's the whole idea to it. So like on my Dart, it was like, say, 5,500 is the converter. My peak torque was right at 6,000 on my car. So I would, that way I could flash to it, but I would go on my trans brake at 4, so that way I could kind of get a run at it and hit it, and that's the reason why my car would carry the wheels. If it was a really crappy track, believe it or not, I would take the 2-step out of it, and I would go right up against the converter because it would leave softer when it was up against the converter.
Well, so Ari's saying Dallas puts that stabilizer on his popcorn too, uses that S on everything. I do use it a lot for just about everything, but let me tell you why I do use that. If you're wanting some oil to stick to something, that's the stuff you use. Have you seen how stringy it is?
What's that?
Right? The Lucas Oil Stabilizer.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's why I love it on bearings. I mean, I'll put a motor together and 6 months later it still turns over like it's butter.
Yeah,
right?
I use the Lucas Oil, the assembly lube, that green.
Oh, I haven't used that. I just used their stabilizer for it.
Yeah, that works. It's about the same stuff because it's the same stuff. Dizzy Izzy gave us $20, man. Thanks,
sweet.
Bud.
Thanks, Dizzy.
Awesome.
Hey, man, your shirt that you gave me, you made it, and I went to put it on the other day, and that sucker's a medium, and it was like I could wear it on my forearm. Yeah. I lost 44 pounds, but I still haven't lost that much, right? But I mean, I literally got it over my head, and I knew I was in trouble. But so I'll see if I can give it to my boy or something. But he's far from a medium.
John Wilburn was. I guess someone asked if we had a perfect light. Tom Brown, no, but we had an 001. So that was Tom Brown asked right here. Did anyone cut a perfect light? Nope. We got a 001. Mr. Wilburn, who was the 001? Do you remember who it was?
It was not me. I'll tell you that right now. Instant green.
It's hard.
That thing is like literally you have to guess that light.
See, that's why I always say that if you're up against someone who's faster, just go on to instant green because they'll level the playing field. Because that you were getting like, say, what, a 0.2 0.3 on average, weren't you?
I think 0.4s and 0.5s.
0.4, 0.5. So if someone, and there was other people that were getting like 0.7. So that's 0.3 of a second. So you could be, you could be 0.3 of a second slower than someone, and on that tree you could still possibly win. So
I know my eyes were like this big, and the pupils were dilated like Dizzy Izzy in the burnout contest in 22, right? Humongoid. I was dialed in on that tree, waiting for any kind of flicker of an element.
I want to install a fan controller, soft start, temp control. Shane, what are you running? Oh, yes, he did.
Somebody
Steve,
did ask you about that at No Name Nationals,
yes.
I believe.
And you know what? I will get it here. And he sent to me in, it's a DeReal, and I see your email here, and I'll get you the link for which one I'm running. I forgot to look at it on the top of my head. I was actually getting the hardcore tech for 8 o'clock ready to go. So I apologize for that, but I will send you the link for it right after we're done here. So by 9 o'clock something, you'll have it.
Oh, here's something interesting, and I'll caveat to what we talked about earlier. When I said talking about the race fuel, taking the race fuel out of the fuel system, if you're unwilling to do that and you're wanting to do, like, say you don't want to do it, right? The next best thing would be go put like a couple capfuls of ATF in that, and then cycle the fuel system, because it'll keep that ethanol from eating the fuel system. That's what the methanol and top fueler guys used to do way back in the 60s, was run transmission fluid through it. They called it top lube.
Fluid in my carburetors, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I put ATF in my carburetors. It like when they sit for a while, especially like the Edelbrocks, because the jets go straight down, and so I put it in there so that way nothing settles in that. Tony, I wish I could get my dang semi-truck batteries to come back. Those stupid things are like $200 a piece, and there's 4 of them. Yes, you can. I watch a few videos on how to hit high amps on those. You really can. If you have a stick welder, you really can just do it by amperage on there. Be careful. Be careful, because when they get hot, it's hydrogen gas. If there's a spark, that's a bomb. It's a hydrogen bomb. Okay, so just be careful. But you can get it done, and it does work.
Mopars, Mustangs, and Minivans is asking for tech question. Dallas, can you move the footrests on the monkey bike? Sure. You just can't modify the frame, right? So I don't see why you can't move those footrests where you want them.
Mr. Wilson is asking who put he did a little drive-by on the work, and he said who put those fruity eyelashes on the Charger. That would be Colleen. It would be this person right here. And she gave me a picture of her doing it in her antics.
I didn't know she did it, but I know that Buff, not Buff Del Campo, Buff's Garage, they had the eyelashes originally, and they were like, I'm going to find somebody to tag in the pits. Like, oh, all right.
Well,
so, and that must have been Colleen putting the eyelashes on. Well,
I think what happened was now I don't know the whole story, but I think there was someone got tagged. They took off. They were mad, and then they went around and did someone else.
Oh, which was you?
And which was me. And I own it. I don't care.
Dude, they should have put them on my T-Bird. I would have went out there and run some 6.0s with it.
Yeah, so we'll go full John Wilburn here, but that's a picture of them right there.
You can't hardly see the eyelashes. Oh, yeah, they sent you a picture after they tagged it?
Yes. Well, they didn't send it right away.
Oh, is that Wendy English? That's Wendy English, Colleen Tebow, and I don't know who's that in the middle.
I don't know.
Who's in the middle there? You know that person?
No, I don't. But it was funny. So yeah, they tagged me. That was Sunday. They sent that to me, but that was probably pretty late because I was asleep by. I rode the bike around for a little bit after the burnout contest, and then I went inside. So it was after that. So yeah, it was that was her. So she's the one who did it. Tech question. Here we go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Stock 454 big block Chevy. What do you think would be a safe RPM to shift at would be? Now, that's a very ambiguous question. If it's 100% stock, I think those were right around 55 to 6,000, wasn't it?
I've always been
Safe?
taught that a rule of thumb for a stock engine is usually especially depending on what that 454 came out of. If it was a truck application,
Oh,
it's just
4,500.
based on when your cam stops making power.
Yeah, you'll
Okay?
feel it because
It'll nose over. It's what they
Yeah.
call nosing over. It'll
Yeah.
pull, and then all of a sudden it'll be at reach an RPM point where it won't pull anymore at all, and
Yeah.
it just keeps revving. If it's a truck application, it'll probably be around 4,500 RPM, right? If it's a car application, it's probably somewhere around 5,200 RPM.
Yeah.
Generally, what you can think of is most engines will make it to 5,200 because if you think about it, when you run a dyno pull on them, most of them cross at 5,250, right? And that's where
52, yeah.
that's where torque peaks out at, and that's where horsepower takes over,
That's where they cross.
right?
Yeah, that's where they cross. That's where the mathematical formula crosses because you can only measure torque, and then horsepower is just a dependent variable of the independent variable of torque, which is RPM based. So it's a really simple thing. But yeah, that's where they cross over. But as far as like if you were to take and let's put a camshaft in it, put some decent heads, a carburetor, whatever, a stock 454 with a 4-inch stroke. The rod and everything, I would say right around 6,000. That's where I would be. I mean, obviously there's people, you can go way beyond that. So, did we? My thing just updated here. Where are we at? Did we miss
I'm
anything?
scrolling down, I'm trying to fix things, or I'm trying to find things right now.
John,
So, and to be honest with you, when I got home from No Name Nationals, I went to bed at 8:30, and I woke up the next morning at like 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? I was wiped out.
I wasn't feeling. I was tired all day Sunday, and I was like, man, I'm just gonna get up. I'm just gonna get this thing done. We're gonna clean it up. The only thing I still we finished everything. I made Cash and Roxy helped, and the wifey helped, but I still haven't pressure washed the trailer yet. Still haven't done it.
You got a bunch of dead bugs on it.
Oh yeah, because I drove home Saturday night, and it's about an inch thick, but it was a nice time to drive home, man. There was no one on the road, and it was nice. It was nice.
Fire Pinto says I'm still wiped out. Still wiped out, and I'm slowly regaining some steam, and tomorrow I should be fine.
Yeah. John Wilburn is saying that he'll be live Friday. Colleen probably won't have whatever numbers you want. What did Colleen ask?
What is 8675309?
Right, Jenny. John, you're going to go live with numbers on Friday. I think people are already wanting to know when the next No Name Nationals were.
They were asking me that at the event.
Yeah,
right?
they were asking me. They were asking me, and I'm like, "Look, man, I couldn't tell you, man. I look at the orange number just like you guys. That's what I could tell." But here's my whole take. Someone was asking me, why the No Name Nationals? What's so big about them? There's kind of a troll out there that's kind of asking all this stuff. And here's the thing: it's a family-friendly, awesome event that you look forward to, and anyone can go to. Like literally, my kids, if you were there, they ran wild. They basically had scooters. They had a booth that they were supposed to be at, which they got
never
paid
were,
for.
unless it was time to eat.
Well, 50% of the time they were there, but they were basically they just ran wild. I had no fear of anything about them. I said you just can't leave, and you can't really do that at any other event. And everybody there was helping everyone to the nth degree. Like literally, someone just gave me a helmet for the whole weekend. That's awesome. I really thought I was, I hit a point of frustration on Wednesday before when the master cylinder blew. Then I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to make it through this, and I'm just going to enjoy whatever comes my way, and I don't care. Just at this point, it just is what it is. And getting a helmet and then just helping everyone and just all the people coming up and asking questions and it was nice. And Dallas, I can thank you for this. Is the last Wednesday before we went live, you made a mention like, hey, when you come up and say to us, who you are. Remember, you know us. You see our pictures. You hear our voices. We have a chat.
Right.
We don't know what you look like.
Yeah, we have no idea who you are.
Yeah, we may talk all the time, and but that was actually really good, is because they came over and they would introduce themselves, and I made a lot of friends, man. It was good. It was actually really cool, and people didn't realize that I had long hair.
Yeah. Well, Mopars are everything. He's saying no other racing event a person's kids are safe. Come on, Shane. He's not saying that that's the case. What he's saying is it's a family-friendly event where he just let his kids run wild,
Yeah.
and nothing really happened to him. That's all he's saying.
Yeah.
The big difference about No Name Nationals is that
It's super fair
okay.
family.
When John and I were talking about making this whole thing from the get-go, all right, the thing that came up was that way back in the day, and it doesn't matter which track you are at, but like in the 70s, the local tracks around, all the tracks around the country, even Canada and wherever there were, they had an atmosphere that it was like Camelot, right? It was a good, I guess it would say, a fostering environment for children and adults alike, right? You enjoyed it. It was a good time. You couldn't wait to get back there every weekend. And that was kind of the idea that we had with No Name Nationals, is to create that environment again where people could feel like they're welcomed and that everybody there was in your best interest. Nobody was there to take you down. Nobody was there to drag you through the mud. Nobody was there to throw life curveballs at you, right? You're already going to get them anyway. But the whole idea was to make it something that everybody wanted to be at and enjoyed to be there when they made it. Because, see, unlike other events that across the world, let's take, I don't know, let's say the $1 million race happened up in St. Louis the weekend or 2 weeks before No Name Nationals, okay? You know what you had to have to get into the million? An entry fee.
Yeah, right.
And you could be anybody, right? You could be the guy with the worst attitude, the guy that's a drunk, the woman that's abusive to her kids or her husband. You could be anybody. But at the No Name Nationals, you had to get your 500 subscribers and put in some effort beforehand. And those who didn't put in the effort, they just got tossed in the woodpile. They didn't get to participate. And so what it does is it creates a person that wants to be there. The whole place is nothing but a group of people that want to be there. And they've proven that. They put in the effort to get the subs. They show up and they put it on. Some of them make the subs and their content's not done. But they're still welcome to come. They can bring whatever they want. They're eligible. But that's the difference between No Name Nationals, and that's why it actually feels different, because all those people put in more than just an entry fee to get there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of time. And I know that sometimes we parlay people like, hey, man, let's go subscribe to that. But rules are there to be as guidelines, right? We're all racers. You look at what do the rules don't say, right? The rules don't say, hey, let's go and help out, on some things. But
so Mopars are everything, and this guy must be a troll. Okay, so I'm gonna dabble in this. I would feel safer racing next to the $1 million race cars versus some of the cobbled up trash that was there. Again, you guys know this, but won't say it. I just said it out loud, okay? And I just said exactly what you typed. And I'm glad you trolled on here, because we actually ran tech. Okay, they didn't run tech at the million. They did not run tech. I'm gonna tell you that right now. How do I know this? Because the guy that was our event director, Barkley Schmidt, he ran the million. They didn't do tech. We ran a tech program. People were kicked out. Matter of fact, we had, I think, 6 cars that failed, 3 of them that got repaired, and went out and ran. 3 other ones didn't make tech. They didn't run.
And didn't Dizzy? I mean, Dizzy only made 1 pass, right?
Dizzy did make 1 pass, but see, this is where I hate trolls like this, because they're saying that cobbled up trash. So what's cobbled up trash? The thing that I want to look at is like there's Pole Barn Garage, right? Pole Barn Garage came out there, had no windows in the car. Everybody thought that was an abomination. That's an absolute abomination. But if you go look at, let's say, a Super Gas Roadster, does it even have a roof? Nope.
No.
He's got a full face helmet on. The same as Dalton from Pole Barn Garage had. A full face helmet. Right?
Yeah.
Your interpretation of cobbled up trash is your interpretation.
Yeah.
And yours alone.
And the only thing I was saying about with my kids is that at this event, it was much more of a family event compared to some of the ones that I've been to. And I'm also comparing that to some of the racetracks that I live near now. Now in California, up at Verona, I never had to worry about them up there either. But where I'm at now, I'm in the Memphis area. You don't let your kids run around at all here in this area. So maybe I was speaking out of turn for that, but as far as where I was at, it was, it was, I didn't have to worry about it with them. Yeah, it wasn't even a thought in my head. And as far as the tech goes, I got to say Deke is second to none as far as what he was looking for. And he really teched as far as what I could see, because the tech was right next to our camp. And I would go over there and I would just kind of just like pop in there and check out what he was looking for. And he was doing a really good job. So, yeah. Big Block 402. Yes, my kids were under specific instructions. I asked Shane's kids for a sticker swap, and they said, okay, as long as you're a bracket racer. It's the truth. I told them, everybody gets a free sticker, but they got to have a bracket race. Okay, you know what? We're at 8 o'clock. So we're gonna move on to we're gonna move on to tech here, and I actually have a good one here. So we're going to present, and before I get into it now, I'm gonna lose the screen here, so I'm going to be at pictures and I'll be talking about it. But someone at the No Name Nationals asked me a specific question if I could do this. He wanted to know about my oiling modifications I did on the Gen 3 Hemi and why did I do it. So I just happen to have some engine blocks that I could take pictures of. So I'm going to share a screen here, and share screen and entire screen, and let's get this up, and share, and we are looking back, and here we go. Can you see that, Dallas?
I cannot see anything.
Nope. No screen?
No, there's nothing up there. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it. Nothing right now?
No, nothing. It's just me and you.
Oh. I don't know. Here, present. Let's try it again. Share screen. Share screen. And maybe this doesn't go through as like I wanted to. Share entire screen. And share. Is it sharing screen?
There we go. It's sharing screen. Infinitely, okay. We're looking at ourselves.
Infinitely.
So you're sharing the wrong screen. You need to share whatever picture you're trying to put up there.
Yeah, let's go here. Okay, picture. And, it was here just a minute ago. And there's that. Hemi oil. Here we go. Okay. Can you see a full-blown picture of a Gen 3 Hemi?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so this is basically, I'm going to go through these rather fast because we got a lot of them. Okay, so this is when you bolt the oil pump onto a Gen 3 Hemi. This I highlighted in red where it comes out of the oil pump, and this is where it goes into the block. Okay, so hide this. Okay, move on to the next one. Then it comes out of that and it travels down, and this is where the oil filter is at. So it traverses down there, and I highlighted that in red. Then it comes back through the oil filter and goes back into it. And then, can you see my little cursor here?
Right there? That circle, yeah.
Okay. So that is the fish mouth. So this is where it comes out of the filter, and then it fish mouths into this. Now the next screen you'll see. I sliced the oil block. That hole right there, that's where the oil comes back into this main galley, and this is the main galley that goes over.
And that to the left is probably where the sending unit's at?
To the left, that's a plug. The sending unit is actually right here. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so then this is 1/2 inch, and then this right here is 375 thousandths, and this is the number one main. Then it goes up, and this is the main oil galley that goes the whole length of the block, that goes all the way back. So you have basically 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then it goes to the number one, and this is 375 thousandths. So what a lot of people do is they'll drill this to 1/2 inch, but then you're opening up this part of this thing to also to 1/2 inch.
Right.
So so I put edges on this so it'll be a little easier to see. So this is basically, it's coming over, it's coming up, and then going through. And then as it goes down this is the number 2 main. So as it goes down to this port, it feeds the number 2 main, and then these are where the oil holes go up to the head, and this is what feeds the
rocker
block.
assemblies.
What's that?
Does it feed the rocker assemblies there?
Yeah, it goes up through the block to the head. But also too, if you notice right here at this point, these are where your MDS holes are, or just basically your port holes where some people plug, some have MDS on them. And it feeds into that. So what I was doing is that if this is the hole for the MDS, and then you have this little tiny hole going up here, what I'm doing is I'm back feeding inside these holes. And now this is actually a 6.1 block, and these holes right here, these go to your lifters. So instead of just feeding the number 4 main, because these are on number 2 and on number 4, I'm feeding number 4 main first, which has this type of setup, which would be like this right here. And then I'm also feeding the number 2, so it feeds number 4 first, and then comes forward and feeds the number 2. And then and the reason why I'm doing that is here is the oil passageway. These are drilled from either direction. This is your lifter galley, and so I didn't want to just feed it into this number 4 main here, and then and have it feed that. Why I'm doing it on the number 2. Also, I didn't want to just have high pressure oil going to these lifters and then not to these also. So I was evening it out. So it wasn't trying to feed extra oil and then have to come back up the number 2 to this one. So I was just trying to make a pressure. So this is basically a 6.1 block. And then he also asked me too about the oiling, the cooling. So here's a 6.1 block, looking at it from the back. And what you're looking at here is the water jacket. And so I did a slice on it, and I basically sliced it in, and then I did a drop down. So this is a measurement from the deck height to the bottom of the water jacket on a 6.1. It's 5.094 inches, so basically 5.1 as far as how deep it goes. So this is what makes the BGE 6.4 so good. So the next picture here is a 6.4 block, and you notice here, if you look on this one, you see how this bulges out right here?
Yeah, the water jacket's actually different.
Yes, exactly. And so what it is this right here, there's no water down in
it's
here.
solid. Yeah.
It's solid. So when I sliced it here, you got 4.026. So basically you've got, that's just over an inch difference. And where that inch is being taken up is right here. And that's what makes this block so much stronger. And if you notice how much thinner the water port is here, see how much
it wouldn't cool as well, but
yeah,
it definitely would be more rigid because it's down at the bottom of the cylinder, which is next to the crank.
Exactly.
Right? So,
and that's where it supports is down here. So, anyways, that's basically what I've got on this. And so do I?
There's the infinite screen again.
Here we go. Do I stop sharing? Stop sharing. Boom. There we go. Now we're back. So that's your hardcore tech. I did it as fast as I could, but that's why I did some of the oiling. Is that I have all these blocks and I can look at them, and I was looking at the problems with the oiling. And when I was taking apart a lot of these Gen 3 Hemis, the number 4 main on the 6.4s, they would have a coated bearing on just that one, and I couldn't understand why they would have that. And so then I started looking at how the oiling system worked, and that's why. So if I could backfeed it to the number 4. And then that way, because if you have high velocity, you have low pressure, and then vice versa. So if you have low velocity, you're going to have higher pressure, right? So basically, that's how it works. So I was basically just trying to backfeed it from all directions, like I do all oiling systems. So there's your hardcore tech talk. I hope you guys got something out of it, because that took a long time to take those pictures.
Well, I bet. What were you using? What program is that? CAD?
That's CAD, yeah. Well, that one was Inventor. That one's Inventor. Yeah, so we can, and I have the 5.7 block, Eagle block, the 6.4, and then the 6.1. We don't have an early 5.7, but an early 5.7 mimics the 6.1. So Yeah, I'll get into some VVT and some other things on how that all works. But I'll show you also too. I'll flip the blocks over so you can look at how the air moves back and forth. The 6.1's actually got a really good system. It was really designed for racing because it's got on the mains, it's got air transfer, so the pistons going up and down can actually transfer air back and forth between them. 6.4 has only got that in the metal ones, at least the ones that we've tested. So, yeah. Okay, where was I? Clint's keeping an eye on his guns. Yeah. Nothing exploded. Oh yes, that's correct. We didn't have a single explosion this year, right?
No, and we had to nitpick the oil down. It's where Blake parked his car. I had like 6 drops of oil under it, and then it dripped all the way down the track as it was running.
Yeah.
He fixed the problem, which was his valve cover gaskets, I guess, leaking out the back. But we had to nitpick. That was the worst. That was literally the worst oil down. Was 6 drops of oil under the car, and then probably like 20 of them on the track when he drove down it. But that was literally it. I mean, it was considerably worse last year, where Jed Scott had broke the tail shaft housing off of that 833, and it just spewed all that gear oil out. And then we thought that was going to be the worst one, but then Stephen Myrick decided to one-up him in Candy Cane and let the rods hang out. So that was definitely the worst oil down, but yeah, we didn't have any big-time oil downs this year at all. And yeah, so, and then I see that, let's see. Roland got busted with his window down. He doesn't have a window. It's an SCCA road race car, so it does not have a driver's window.
But he had a window net, right?
He had, no, he didn't have a window net. It's not required SCCA. Yeah, but I'm assuming that's I'm assuming that's cone smashers, because I think a window net is required for road race.
Yeah.
But if you're a cone smasher, I don't think you have to have one because your speeds don't exceed like 70 miles an hour or something.
Yeah. So we do a lot of that out here in Memphis. In fact, I got a 68 Dart that's going to start doing that here soon. So, Jonathan Couchy's asking, Shane, now you need to show the bottom of 3.6 Pentastar. You have to seen crank fail, stock rods seem to be good to about 650 horse. I believe I've got a block. And I do this on my own time, obviously. I don't do this at work, so I'll take a look at it and see what we have.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
John said he's already discussed that with Roland. He's making it right for 2024. That was something that I don't think anybody even noticed, that he didn't have a window. It wasn't until they opened the door up that I saw it.
I did. I noticed it.
Did you? Well, I noticed when he pulled up there, and I'm like, okay, we got to talk to Roland about rolling his window up. But when I went over there, he don't have a window.
No, there was no window in it.
Yeah, there's no glass in it.
Yeah, I looked in there and I looked down because he was parked, in the lanes, and I looked down in there and I was like, oh, yeah, there's no window in there. Cause I looked down in the hole, I was like, you might want to roll this up. But I kept myself, I wasn't a tech guy. I wasn't saying anything, but, that was for someone else. But if I saw a window, I'd tell him, hey, dude, roll that thing up.
Yeah, no, I asked him about it the first time I saw him go down without a window in it, and I'm like, hey, dude, what's going on? And he's like, yeah, there's no window. Yeah. So, like, oh, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. You can't roll it up. But, yeah, do you have a full-face helmet? He's like, yeah, all right, cool, we're good. Yeah. But he technically should have had a window net probably, but I don't think that was something that was caught in tech, honestly, at all. Because there's very few times you ever have to look for a window, right?
Yeah, right. Usually that's for the burnout guy, the burnout box, to tell you to roll your window up.
I think NSB's right here. Couldn't he just run wrist restraints? He probably could, and then it'd be fine. Because then if you were in a rollover, because a window net isn't technically required until you get down to 640 and faster in the 8th mile.
Yeah, under 10 seconds.
And then the wrist restraints should, like all open cockpit cars are required to run wrist restraints at any speeds, right? So roadsters, altereds, dragsters, they all run wrist restraints from the get-go.
Yeah. Andy's saying that he wants to build a Gen 3. Yes. That they're pretty incredible engines. They just never got because they were the Hemi, they're always a little bit more expensive. besides an LS being massively produced from like 1995, 96 or whatever it was that it came out, and then the Hemi not coming until 2003. They're very close in architecture. The LS does have a few things that I think are better than the Hemi. One, it's got 6 bolts for it's got basically 4 bolts holding down the mains, and then 2 crossbow, where the Hemi's it's got 2, and then 2 here, but I think they're bigger on the Hemi, so it's got 2 bigger bolts. And then I think the LS has got a little better oiling system right from the factory. How it works. Basically it runs from the pump all the way back, then it divides in the back and goes forward. So and that's basically it. They're really kind of similar other than that, and how things work.
So Michael Schmidt saying, transferred of weight. It seemed Dallas Murderbird and Mopar Joe's tuna transferred weight very well. Are these both leaf spring cars, and what kinds of front suspension mods were used? Fun to watch. Mine is a factory suspension car, so it has the factory Ford link that they used in the Fox bodies.
Yeah.
Now don't think that it's factory bone stock Thunderbird suspension. It's not. There isn't a control arm on it that came from Ford, but it still has coil springs in the rear with 2 shocks on the rear end. And now Joe's car, I think, is back halved.
Really?
If I'm right, I think so. Or it might have had that super stock treatment where they widen the wheel wells. Because see, that 68 Barracuda didn't come. 67 through 69 is just like a Dart. It doesn't have a lot of wheel well, right? And what's the ticket for those? Is like move the spring inboard of the shock, something like that.
No, you just move it. You move it to the frame rails.
Okay.
You just move the leaf springs in. It's 3 inches.
And Joe could have that. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's what he's got, because that's pretty common.
That means he would still have leafs on it then.
Yeah. My car's runs low sixes in the eighth, and mine's got Caltrax.
Well, and that's what I learned out there in Southern California, was that leaf sprung cars is probably the best deal if you got leaf springs and Caltrax. You can hook them up easy. There was a lot of guys out there running the mono single leaf that was fiberglass with Caltrax on it.
That's
and
right.
It was just a deadly setup.
Yeah, mine works. Mine's got a 1 inch lower spring in the front, and a thicker spring in the front, and it's a split mono leaf fiberglass. And
John's saying Joe's is a ladder bar car.
Oh, it's a ladder bar. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I watched it leave a few times, and the way it was leaving is it didn't leave like a Mopar. So yeah, or like a Caltrax. But what did I know? I was only watching it from the back end. So
Well, Fire Pinto said he used to have an 88 Turbo Coupe. I sure liked watching that T-Bird fly. When I first met Shane, I was just getting the suspension dialed in, and it used to do these nutsoid wheel stands that were like 3-4 feet in the air. And it was really a crowd favorite. But man, the ET was way slow. It was like 640s, 650s. And I haven't done anything to it except for a lot of suspension stuff. Yeah. And I got it down to like 620s. So.
Yeah, mine started off at 1060s. I'm sorry. It started off at 660s at Verona. And I did nothing but suspension work and getting it hooked up. And I got it all the way down to the 620s at Verona. So that's not bad.
And everybody's saying Jackie Abbott is here and the cookie lady, and I kind of wish I would have stopped by and got some cookies because I had no idea. Well, I can't eat too many of them, but wish I would have got some.
I didn't have any of the cookies.
Everybody's talking about how fantastic they are, and I kind of a little jealous that I missed out on this.
Yeah, me too.
I gotta wait till next year.
Jackie, you gotta come by and give us some damn cookies. I didn't know about it.
Shane's kids weren't there, so they would have lasted 3 minutes.
Right.
Or longer.
Big James has a Gen 3 Hemi with a huge turbo. He is building one for his race cars. He's shooting for 1,000, 5.7. That's pretty simple. Literally a 5.7 Gen 3 Hemi. Just think of it as a 5.3 LS. Really. That has a better head. That's all it really is.
Now everybody's missing the cookies. Like Clint's like, I missed them too.
Yeah, see? Yeah. But, as far as Gen 3 Hemi, just think of a 5.7 Hemi. Even the crappy heads Hemis flow better than any LS head, right from the factory. Well, except for some of the Corvette stuff, but they flow really good. They flow like north of 300 CFM right from the factory. Most of the Eagle stuff. So you can put a turbo on that and you're flying. So Michael Schmitz, hope you keep that bird. We had an 86 turbo. Oh, is that the one you were talking about? No,
it's a different one.
A turbo from mom from high school. It was great car for every day driving, freeway handling, gas mileage, etc. Keep the beast, chief. You know what you need to tell them is tell them how the car settles over 100 miles an hour. That's always interesting to me.
Well, okay. And what I have to first say is, though, that the 87, 88 T-Bird was completely redesigned in 87 for one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to run 200 miles an hour in Talladega.
Yeah.
From the factory. So you could buy a body in white, put together yourself a Thunderbird, and go out and have a 200 mile an hour capable car, right? What's interesting about it is when I started running at the quarter mile up in Fontana in Southern California, it hit probably about 120 at the 1,000-foot mark, and the car would just get quiet. It would get eerily quiet to where it was still running. You could tell it was still running because you could feel the floor, but there was no wind noise. There was no nothing. It would just get eerily quiet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of good and it's kind of bad because like usually when stuff goes silent when you're racing, there's something wrong, right? So,
and what's the only thing about my car is that it gets louder the faster it goes, and you really start once you get over that 100 miles an hour mark. The car lets you know you're going over 100 miles an hour in a car that was designed in the 60s.
Well, my buddy's GTO was that way. He had a 65 GTO, and it would around 100 miles an hour. It had Lexan windows. It would suck them out, and like at an angle to where air was coming in the car, and then the floor would start shaking. And it was, you knew you were going pretty fast, right? But the T-Bird's like the opposite. Just gets so dang quiet. Yeah, I think what it is the air is no longer getting under it, and it's going over it.
Yeah, right. Michael Schmidt saying, maybe you were flying hot in Fontana.
Could have been.
Could have been. Yeah, I just wish that, I will talk about it a little bit, but I was a little bummed myself. There was Sunday was kind of like a decompression day for me when I got home because I worked so hard to get my car there, and I was staying quiet about where it was. In fact, I didn't release a video, didn't do anything, I didn't film nothing. I was just working on the car, and when that master cylinder thing blew, that really took the wind out of my sails. It was actually kind of a bummer, and I had to reflect on it on Sunday. But but what I've got going forward now is that we got Slant 6 stuff coming up for me. I actually have a gentleman's car here from Texas, and we're going to build a Slant 6 and put it in there. It's a 64 Dart, a convertible from Texas. Slanted sled. I forget the guy's name on the top of my head. Sorry, it's a live show and I don't have the stuff prepared. But hey, Lisa. All right, that's it. Gilbert's slanted sled. It's going to be his deal. And
it's a daily, right?
Well, I'm not sure. I think it's his fun car. But I did get something really, really cool from Clint. It is it's a dual intake for dual carbs, but for Holly 1920s. I might put it on his car if I can find a really good 1920 carb, which is the Holly style carb.
The Holly, yeah. Well, that's the model number, right?
Yeah, exactly. 1920. And it's the one without the vent on it. If I could find another good one, I will put two on. I'll probably put on.
I think they still remake those.
Yeah, they're repops, and they're not really good.
Chinesium.
Yeah, it's Chinesium. And in fact, the wife's car, that's the reason why I grabbed a whole bunch of them from swap meet, and or actually from the wrecking yard. And I remember all being like original, and it took me probably 5 carburetors to make one good carb that's on the Beaver right now. And we bought a couple Chinesium ones, and they would do one thing good, everything else was bad. So
idle good.
It would
great.
one with idle
God,
good.
I can't drive it.
One the economizer worked awesome. One would have the accelerator pump worked great. One would be full throttle was awesome. Everything else was crap. So I tried to take the Chinesium ones and then try to make one out of that. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to go back. And then I did find out. I've always messed with older carburetors. So the 1970s stuff, they drilled a hole in those. Basically right by the throttle plate, so it actually would go at an angle underneath the throttle plate. It was basically a controlled air leak, right? Some of them had it in the plate. This one actually, some of the carburetors had it a hole drilled in the body, and it was literally a leak. There was an unfiltered leak from the engine compartment into the carburetor, and that's no BS. I'll show you one. So the car that I have on the wife's car, the first one, I kept having this air leak. I couldn't figure out. I could hear it, and it sounded like a vacuum leak. Once I saw it on the side there, it had a little bit of gum just covering the corner of it slightly. I packed that thing with a little bit of JB Weld, cured that problem. So,
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Do you want another? I do.
But Ari's in San Diego.
Oh,
Yeah. Sorry, Ari, we're not driving out to San Diego to pick that up.
well, you know what's going on this weekend? The duct tape drags.
You know what's going on the following weekend? Cruising the coast.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And what's cool is like on the 5th and 6th or 6th and 7th, the Southeast Gassers are going to be down there in Gulfport during Cruising the Coast. So
Are you
I
gonna
think
go?
I might make that trip, man. I might swing over and get the creamy beaver from you and head down 55.
You're going to get inside and drive my wife's Beaver.
Or creamy beaver.
That's funny. You know, I had Colleen here and Damien on Sunday, and I showed them. Look, they came in the garage and they could. I was like, look, I'm sorry, it's a little messy in here. Literally, I was thrashing up to the very last minute, and I said, I showed them. I said, push on the pedal and just right. It was a wreck, but everything else is done, and they were just like, man, you were this close, and I was like, yeah, I was that close. Oh, so. Actually, Wannabe's asking me a question here. Sprag or spragless torque converter? Okay. Yes and no at the exact same time.
It depends what you're doing.
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing. If you're a turbo car, yeah, I would say go spragless. If it's an 8th mile car, go spragless. You know, if you're hitting with a bunch of nitrous, some of them go spragless now, but it really depends on how many kits you're putting on it, because you don't want to go back on the converter each single time. It really comes down to your setup and how much the car weighs. You know, it's kind of like if you're running a Glide also, you know, and you're just running a 2-speed, I'd say go spragless too, but I wouldn't run a spragless one past an 8th mile. It's just like I wouldn't do that with a Glide either. Glide's really you're going to slow down in a quarter mile.
Yeah, the LC2 kit is right there. If you're on the street, if you're going to take it on the street at one time at all, sprag or diode is what he's saying. That's right. If it's a full race only piece and you're putting down 1,000+ foot-pounds of torque, go spragless.
Yeah, exactly. But you're going to build a lot of heat. Just be prepared for that. It's going to take a long time for that transmission to cool down. And I would go in as cold as possible, because you're going to gain, I mean, I think it's 10 degrees a second or whatever it is you're on the converter, and then when you're going down the track, it's going to be building even more than that. So 10 degrees another second, probably 20 degrees a second as it goes on the track. So that's where I would be on that. If the car weighs also too, if it's heavy, I would definitely go with the sprag. So see where else. Oh, the wifey's in here. It'll be mighty fine fall day when with top down test driving Gilbert Sled. I'll be sad when I do not see it in the garage. Yeah, right now her car is his car is actually in our garage, and the Beaver's under a tarp, under a really nice car cover on the side. So the wife's been looking at it. In fact, what's funny is that she goes, "Hey, he made a mention that he wanted to buy the car and the Beaver." And then she was like, let's do a trade. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to trade. That Beaver's in perfect running condition.
So here's a question. Boring Build says 69 Z28302 slight off idle stumble, owned by an extremely analytical stock and eliminator racer. Car and engine super clean, well built, no cross ram, assuming all basics are right. 302 stuff. Okay, no. When you have an off idle stumble, that generally means it's either one of two things. One, it's going lean right off of idle, right as the transition passes, or while as the throttle blade passes the transfer slot, it's going idle or it's going lean for some reason. Okay. The other thing is the timing is wrong, like the curve is wrong, or the initial timing setting is wrong. Okay. That's generally what you find when you have something that's an off idle stumble. Those are the two things you're normally looking at. And if you're sure the timing is right, because it's easily readable, right, then you got to start looking at something in the, because I want to say the 302 Chevrolets came with I think they had a Holley on them.
Yeah,
didn't they?
Did. Yeah.
They had a vacuum secondary Holley.
It could even just be accelerator pump setup on that.
Well,
on
the Holley has an adjustable accelerator pump, right? So,
yeah.
yeah, it could be something as simple as that. The cam needs to come in quicker on that accelerator pump. I don't know if that does it have one like a double pumper on those.
It's got that little spring with the nut on it, and it goes onto a cam. And over time, that cam wears out, so that you get a little gap between the arm and that nut. So you have to get that out. And if you're opening it up before any accelerator pump's going in,
it'll go lean immediately.
It'll go lean immediately, and it'll be really off idle. Because also too, here's one more too, is that if he's having the air turned up on that, so he's got the idle circuit turned up quite a bit, it's probably past the transfer slot. So no matter what he does, when he opens that up, it's going to go lean immediately, and that's a lot of that bleed that goes through the plate. Like he should, if he's turning it up towards beyond, like say a quarter of a turn on the idle, as far as actually on the butterflies, it could be that the butterflies have opened up past that transfer slot. So it could just be that too. So
yeah. I would definitely look at your carburetor first, because the timing is fairly easy. I mean, okay, do the timing first, but you're going to be able to see it right away, right? If it's close. And you don't have to have it exact, but then if you get the timing is in the ballpark, everything should work good, go immediately to the carburetor, and it's probably that accelerator pump. So A Cove was asking what type of drive shaft. I have a Strange Engineering. It is a chromoly drive shaft.
No.
Yeah. So
I have a QA1 carbon fiber.
I know, and I'm jealous, but I'm glad I don't need one of those. And I'm glad I don't have that price. Because I want to say my drive shaft, there was options at Strange Engineering, but I want to say every material that you went up, the diameter got bigger. Okay.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep. Usually.
Okay. So it was like, I want to say aluminum was like a 4-inch.
Yeah.
And then carbon fiber was a 4-inch as well, I believe.
3.5 for mine.
3.5, okay. And my chromoly one, the reason why I went with chromoly, because one, it's light like aluminum, and two, really, really strong, right? But then it's the same diameter as like a steel drive shaft, which was like 2.5 inch. So I figured the smaller it is, the better it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily means that it'll handle more torque, but when I called them and they're like, oh yeah, you just got a Steiner Fox body drive shaft, like, okay, I didn't know that. I just measured it and sent you the dimensions, but
and typically what breaks a drive shaft is critical speed. We've talked about this many times. You're going to twist a drive shaft from torque, but it usually twists because it starts jump roping around and goes whoop,
and twists on itself.
It twists on itself. LC2 Kid, side note, the ATI Super F fluid is awesome, works like Type F, and it can take the heat. Not cheapo though. Yes, I used to use Type F in mine. Obviously, TCI, so I'm running their TCI fluid in mine.
Is that the trick shift? No, that's B&M. It's trick shift.
That's B&M, yeah. It's the max fluid, I think is what it's called. but
It
it's
is
a
primarily Type F though. FYI.
yes. It's primarily Type F. It's essentially just a hydraulic fluid.
If you really want to know some trick things about transmissions, I saw some guys doing some interesting things out in Southern California because they wanted their converter like exact RPMs, right? And so you would put it together, you put Type F in it, and then see where it stands at. If your converter's too loose, they would put some thicker fluid in there. So they'd find like hydraulic fluid for a tractor, right? Pour that in there. The viscosity was like, say, I don't know, 10% greater,
yeah.
you know? And it would lower the stall RPM by like, say, 400, 500 RPM.
Yeah.
You know, the other way to go was there was guys talking about they pulled the tranny fluid out and add in Mobile 1 like 0.20.
20, yeah.
And it would
does
higher
work.
stall.
Yeah. It does work because it's super thin. It's like literally water. You
Right.
know? Yeah. Yeah, it's cool stuff. Yeah, it's stuff I don't. That's stuff that the average guy shouldn't play with unless you really know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So Tom Brown's asking, did anyone still make a 671 supercharger for the Buick? It depends what Buick. I don't think anybody makes a supercharger for a Buick anymore at all. Because who needs more torque in a Buick? Right off idle. So, but no, I don't think anybody makes one. Kenny Bell made one last I knew of. And I don't think anybody makes one anymore. Now, you can probably call and get one made. Like Wilson Manifolds specializes in, one-off intake manifolds. And I'm sure just to sell a blower like BDS might make you one. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Boring Builds is saying that he's daily driving it, not racing it. But he did stock limiter for 25 years. He's normally got his cars dialed in perfectly. I'm telling you, if it's a daily driver, I'm almost going to put money on it that it's the accelerator pump adjustment. I've seen that a lot of times.
Well, there's another thing too. Those accelerator pumps, I guess there's two different sizes.
50 cc and 30 cc.
Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
And so like all your double pumper stuff for high horsepower applications generally comes with the 50 cc.
But
And
it wouldn't
that
make a
motor
difference
would probably be the 30 cc.
It really wouldn't make a difference though off of idle because all the CC is going to do is just continue the shot because
For longer, yeah.
Yeah, up on top you have your tower which has like say 31s or whatever it is as far as the jet size, right? That squirts it in, and then the CC just does it longer. That's what that spring's for on there. So it just has a longer shot for like something that's got a really long duration camshaft with a ton of overlap. You want it flow in there.
Huh. Well, Jonathan Couchy's asking, Shane, do newer transmissions like the NAG 1 5-speed in my Charger all have adjustable pressure for adjustable torque converter stall? I know I can tune the stall in my NAG 1.
Oh, right here. Do newer transmissions like NAG 1 in my Charger have adjustable pressure for adjusted torque converter stall? No. Now, once again, I can only tell you no from the fact that I've tested some stuff on this, but basically once the stall converter is set on those, now there are companies out there that have like say a clutch pedal for an 8-speed, believe it or not. So how it works is that it locks up the converter and uses the clutches in the transmission to basically use it as a clutch. So basically it's got a clutch pedal on an 8-speed transmission. As far as an adjustable torque converter stall, the pressure on that would basically be that would be hard to do. You would need like a dump valve to do that. That's what you see. Those people who run like say turbo cars, they got the dump valves on them to slow them down so that way they're not unspooled. I don't know on this one 100%, but I can almost positively say no on that one. So. I know that you can't. I know that there's no way to change because that would be if that was possible, that would be the number one transmission on the market, and people would be doing it on everything. And in fact, they pull these transmissions out and they go right to the 70s, ZF8 HP 70s because they just they work so much better. See, oh yeah, Bad Tree Productions, Heathens Assemble. I love these guys, man. They had the awesome little setup right there. Like it was kind of like Checkpoint Charlie right there. You know, you always had to stop by their little spot. You know what I mean, just to see what was going on.
But when I walked in there for Checkpoint Charlie, it was just like, I love the smell of napalm in the morning, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go. You know.
Yeah, those guys are cool, man. They were fun.
They
nice
bring the party with them, and it goes when they leave. They're definitely, they always have that same vibe where it's like, hey man, I'm just here to have fun, and when we're done having fun, I'm gonna have some more fun, right? So, let's see. LC2 Kid is saying, wouldn't increasing the charge PSI on the torque convert risk killing the thrust bearing? Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. That's why on race engines they don't last very long when you start doing that, and especially when you start running SFI approved flex plates. They're basically not flex plates anymore. They're basically just a transfer plate. They're super thick.
Firm
so,
plate.
Yeah. So it actually does start pressing on that. That's why distance from the converter to the flex plate becomes very critical. So that way you pull it up to it. So that way when it does, it actually moves at that point now into the converter instead of it moving away. But it's always going to be on the thrust side, and that's why when you build a lot of engines, they always tell you to whack the crank back first, then whack it forward, and then wedge a screwdriver in there. So that way you set the thrust bearing moving it forward, just for that reason. Just a little side note there.
Hey, so Stephen Myrick from Big Block 402 saying, I hung out with Bad Tree until 2:30 a.m. Wednesday night. We built a tent at midnight, and it wasn't OSHA approved. So they must have done some debauchery to get the tent built. It's always a lot of fun with those guys. That's one thing I did notice is that I ended up running out of gas way before them guys did. And I went to bed. I think, though, that's the latest I'd stayed up in probably a couple of years.
Mine was about Friday night was about 10 o'clock for me.
Oh, I was like 1:30 crawling into my Suburban going to sleep like, I've had my 2 drinks for the night. I'm going to bed, and then wake up at 7 like, oh, I should have never done that.
Yeah, that was not me. I looked for you. I did a loop. After the burnout, I took the kids to showers.
Yeah, I was sitting across the way from you. I was talking to Square Body Chad and Buff.
Yeah, well,
not Buff Del Campo, but Buff from Buff's Garage.
Yeah, I literally just did a drive around, and then it was just nice and cool out, so I just kind of rode around, and it was just nice to be outside.
It was. And then, it was. I'm telling you, the fall in Southeast Missouri is the perfect time to have No Name Nationals. Perfect time.
Yeah, and then I was in bed by 10 o'clock, and then in that trailer we had a noisemaker. Remember the noisemaker? Remember when we were at PRI? Yeah, I had one of those going, and the kids had TV. They were watching The Sandlot on loop.
Oh, man, sweet.
Yeah.
Well, so Tom Brown's asking, Dallas, did you get to use that hot dog cooker Buff gave you? You want to know what happened with that? Let's see. I ran out of food Friday morning. I ran out of food. Okay, I had 5 packages of tuna and a couple of packets of Ritz crackers to hold me over for 4 days or whatever. Okay,
I fed you, man.
And Shane pulled in, and Buffett gave me those hot dogs, and I was going to cook up one of them hot dogs on the hot dog cooker, and he was like, "Dude, we're having chili over tater tots tonight. Why don't we just take those hot dogs and cut them up and put them in the chili?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's a fantastic idea." So we did that. We thinned out the chili with some hot dogs and then threw it over some tater tots with cheese on top and some sour cream, and voila, you had chili tater tots, and they were the bomb.
Friday night, you had shrimp, ribeye, mashed potatoes, and
no, that was Saturday, wasn't it? No, that was Friday night.
It was Friday night.
So we did that on Thursday, the hot dogs and the chili thing, because it was right before the burnout contest.
We did the steak, and we did the steak and the shrimp.
We did the steak and shrimp, yeah. Oh, we did it at lunch then. We had to do it at lunch.
Yeah.
Because we did the hot dogs and the chili at lunch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the bomb, man. I mean, Shane came out there and it was like I went from tuna on crackers to gourmet food, right? And I just was doing the tuna on crackers because that's all I could afford. It was $5 for 5 packets of tuna, and it was another $5 for those crackers. So that was literally like $10 I spent on all my food there, and I just had tons of drinks, which it was good. I brought all the drinks because I mean I think I drank like 27 of them on the first day. Well, no, that Saturday when it was blisteringly hot, I drank so many of them, and I didn't piss one time that whole day.
Oh man, I made sure my kids drank one of those little water things every 2 hours.
Your son was drinking me out of those little juice things, whatever those were. He was drinking them like mad.
Oh yeah, because I wasn't keeping track or tabs on them. I was just like, oh, they're at the track, whatever. As long as they're drinking something, I don't care at this point, So.
Yeah, but so Buff is saying I was dehydrated after Saturday, Buff Del Campo, and I think that may have been when they gave me that cooker, but I think it was Friday they gave me the cooker.
Yeah.
But
Dallas had, and you also had some real deal awesome, like Southern California style breakfast burritos too, man.
With a hard boiled egg in it.
Yeah, hard boiled egg, and then the first one on Friday morning. You had the one with I had egg patty with the Gouda cheese on it, and then we had the pulled pork.
Oh yeah, that thing was pretty good too.
Yeah,
dude, you made some gourmet stuff, man. Stuff that I would never have at the racetrack.
Well, it was me and the wife. I can't take credit for everything, but that's actually how we eat at home on the weekends. Is we cook our own stuff. We rarely go out to eat because we can do a better job at the house.
Yeah. Well, and that's how it was here for my family because my wife was a chef, right? Mm-hmm. So we'd always eat like really good, and then whenever we took the kids out like to eat somewhere, it was always a disappointment because it was never as good, and you're now paying for it, right?
Right.
And you're like, dang, dude, I'm paying 3 times as much. I could have made this at home if I wasn't so damn lazy today, you know. But Stephen Myrick here from Big Block 402 said it was hotter than expected this year. The projected temperature on Saturday was 84 degrees.
Yeah,
it was like 92.
Yeah, it was
okay.
hot.
Yeah, it was really stupid hot. And that's the day that we had the 28-10-5 shootout. And Shane had decided to go run 3 laps around the track before we even started the 10-5 shootout. And it was literally like we were thrashing like bracket racers in between rounds, just trying to keep the car charged. Every time I drove it in, it was 210 on the temp gauge. It was just so dang hot.
And the batteries are 25%.
It was cooking it, because the pump was running and the fans were running like mad.
Yeah, that was a day. And I got to tell you though, man, one last thing I want to talk about that we haven't mentioned yet was Roland. Remember, we put up amount of money for who was going to win the money, who took out Joe, or if Joe was going to beat the money, right?
Yeah, but that turned into something interesting too.
That's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So if you guys weren't there and you want to know what happened, so you heard about the bounty that we had for if Joe won, you got X amount of money, and if you beat Joe, then you got this money. So then I parlayed that into like if you beat Joe and you get a red and you make him go red, you get the extra $40, right? And then when I was thinking about it, I was like, this is kind of a low money here. So I went around to all the different channels and I had them kick in money. I got that thing up to $625. And was that guy one of the guy dropped off $100 and something. He was like the mayor, I think, or was
Possum?
I don't remember his name.
Well, we got the money up to a pretty substantial amount, right? And all you had to have was a Slant Daily sticker on your car.
Yeah, and Ron mentioned it 100 times, almost an hour. You had to have a Slant Daily Garage sticker on it. And where we were pitted at, me and Dallas, we just couldn't hear what was being raced. So we missed first round of.
I was wanting to run the brackets, and I
we
was suited up, ready to go. And Shane went up there like, man, this is taking forever. And he comes back and he's like, hey, man, you won't believe this. They're in second round of the brackets, and you can't even buy back now. And I'm like, oh, crap.
So I was like, well, whatever. So then I grabbed my stickers because my plan was whoever raced Joe I was just gonna tag a sticker on his car. But when I got back up there, Joe was already at the line. Roland was next to him, and I'm like, well, I missed it. And so then I was up there in the stands, and I was telling I kept Ron updated on how much money we had, and we saw the money. We had all the people who were who donated it. In fact, I have it right here. We'll talk about it. Who all donated, and so then he beat Joe. Joe actually lit the tires off. I mean, basically just went. He just went up and smoked fast and hard. So then Roland won. So then I got on my bike and I rode out there before he could get back to his pit, and I circled it like, circled his car. There was no sticker on it. So then I left it up to the crowd. I was like, hey, let's, who wants to give him the money, and then like, should we do this? And then it was like even. So I had to think of something else. So then I go over to Dallas. I'm at Dallas, what should we do? Like, I got this money that I would want to pay out to someone. Dallas is like, he comes up with the idea of all ideas. He's like, dude, just run a match race. Have Joe go up a car that runs about, make it 2 out of 3 match race. I'm like, that's a hell of an idea. So then I went around looking for someone to race them.
Run 630s, 640s, right?
Yeah, 640s, and we're going to do it on a pro tree. Because we already had instant green. We already had a 510, so let's do it on a pro tree. NSB Customs stepped up with their Linko Mopar, and this was on Friday. This was on Friday night, and so he's like, yeah, we need 20 minutes, and this was like at like 4:30, and I was like, well, we got to get this going because they're shutting down the track at 6. So they pull up there, and it was going to be a 2 and out type of deal. So I mean, it couldn't have been more perfect for this. So then. They get up there and Joe just cleans their clock on the tree right there on the first one, and I think he wasn't ready for it. In fact, he told me that he went up there, hit the button, and then he glanced down at the gauges like he's
That's
normally
right,
doing.
he said that.
He glanced down the gauge. When he looked back up, he saw green. He goes, "Oh."
Yeah, and I'll give you a tip on Pro Tree. Okay, Pro Tree. Once the last guy's staged, you do not take your eyes off that tree at all. It happens so fast, you're going to miss it.
Yep. So then he gets them out, and then they go back into the pits, and then so now it's like 5 something, like 5:20, right? And we're like, hey, we got to get another one in. So 5:30, they come back up, and then they had switched lanes, right? So they went left, and then they went right, and so then they get up there, and that race was the race of races. It was now NSB Customs won, but it was by 7 thousandths of a second. 7 thousandths, man, that was awesome.
It was tight. Yeah, it was a real tight race.
Yeah,
Hey,
and then
before we go on to the third one, okay, click on 851 Junkyard D.
Right here. I saw Torque Racing posted a
Just Mopar Joe poster on eBay, opening bid of $620.
Is that true?
No, it's funny
I
as
was going to
hell.
say, dude, that's awesome. So I was going to get to that. So then they go up for the last one. It was literally 6 o'clock. They get up there, and Just Mopar Joe, basically it was pretty tight, but he won the race, and he got $625. So then that we got the money. So then at the end, Ron comes up with a Just Mopar Joe wanted poster, right? And since Roland won a lot, I think he won the whole No Name Nationals, right? He won the biggest event, right?
Uh-huh.
And on the back of it was a Slant Daily Garage sticker.
So
yeah,
NSB says that we overheated on that first race. The last race is when I glanced down, dummy.
oh,
You know,
okay.
like, don't worry about it, man. These are the things that you learn the hard way. I mean, I was doing pro tree stuff out in Southern California with Shane, and I was doing dumb things like that. I mean, it's like you expect the sportsman. Oh, okay, I know how this is gonna go, and you get into your routine, and this thing knocks you outside of your comfort zone big time.
But I got to tell him, I got to give him props, man, for stepping up. That was putting them on the spot. In fact, when they agreed to it, they had that car up on up on stands, and they were making a huge change to the ladder bars because they were having a problem hooking up. And remember, this was on Friday when the track wasn't all that great.
When everybody was having a hard time hooking up.
Yeah, and I'm not going to tell you what he did, but he literally moved from one. I mean, he swung for the fences. He made from one move all the way to the other side, and I was like, wow, But he went for it, and it seemed to work. It seemed to be getting down the track pretty good. So yeah, big shout out to them for stepping up.
Yeah,
But
I mean, this is something that All right, I'm gonna let you know, if you've never done a pro tree race, it is something that's completely different than a sportsman tree.
Yes.
Okay, and it's way different. You can't. It's so hard to cut a light the first time. The first time I ever saw one, I mean, it literally didn't even register in my brain, right? And I'm like, was that just the light? Because it's green already, you know.
Yeah. So I want to give a mention to some of the. So NSP Customs put in $50. Jerry Racing put in $20. Poor Boys Garage $20. Scott Speed Shop put in 20. Levi's Backyard Garage put in 20. Two Hacks Garage put in 20. Busted Radial Garage put in 10. Technician Troy put in 10. Dude Mopar put in 20. Torga Racing Productions.
Torque Racing Production. That's rolling.
Racing Productions. Sorry, put in 10. Remember, I was riding this on my bike. Dave, Brenda, and James put in 20. They're just random people. Daddy's Money Garage put in 40. Mopar Al put in 5, and Bad Tree Customs put in 15. And then at the very end, I didn't get this, but there was a few that comes out to like 500. There was he put in $120, $120 or something like that. It was the rest of the money that he put in there. So it turned into something. I mean, that's a big payday, $625 for, 2 races. That's actually, or 3 races. So it was actually really good. It was fun. So all in all, I got to say that No Name Nationals was awesome. And I'm just looking forward to next year, already,
Yeah. Well, oh, you know what? Something else that was neat. All those throttle bodies I got from some place.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the guys over at NSB Customs, that's what they had on their. I think he had an A body, like a super, or not A body, a B body. He had like a super B maybe, right? He was like, "Oh, dude, they're discontinuing that line. Like, if I ever need another throttle body, what happens?" And I'm like, "You call me, dude. I got one." And he's like, "Well, can I get it from you?" I said, "Yeah, no problem, dude. I got a plethora of them, right? I don't need all of them things."
NSB Customs, send me Slant Daily Garage Yahoo your connection, and I can get piles of them. So, yeah, I literally can get piles of them.
Let's see. Tom Brown says, Dallas, where do I go to the AHRA rule book, and are all the specs in there for what you can do for a tube frame? Pretty much they're all in there. The only place we have left, I took the website down just because I don't know what I'm going to be doing next year. I really don't. Everything in my life is upside down at the moment. So I just decided to take a hiatus, figure out what's going to happen, and then just run 1 or maybe 2 events. But the only place to get that rule book is you can go to Facebook to the AHRA page, and then you can download it from there.
Yeah. And what I'm going to do is the same thing we did with Mopar Joe, Roland, since he won the brackets. He's going to have already a bounty on him, $200 right off the bat. Boom.
Who? Roland?
Yeah, he won the brackets, right?
No,
I believe. Who won the bracket?
Wasn't that T's? They had the primer dart.
Oh, okay. Well, he's got the bounty on him. I thought it was Roland for some reason. I don't know.
Roland went out. I think he was actually. I think that's who they beat. I think T beat Roland out.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll find out who it is. But whoever
T's
won,
Good Time. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, T Good Time. Okay, so he's got the bounty on him right now. So $200. He wins 200. So you take him out, it's 200 already right now. So. Yeah, less than 1 week from the end of the No Name Nationals, there's already a bounty out there. So.
Oh, and here's one I'm going to claim right now for 2024. I will be running 5s next year with a naturally aspirated car. I promise. I will
100%.
be in the 5s. I will probably be at the 580 mark. That's what I'm shooting for.
Yep, and I think we're going to do that with, should we tell camshaft?
Oh, should I put some more camshaft in it? No, it's already sounding pretty dang gnarly right now.
Yeah, you're going to need a little bit more camshaft.
I don't think so. No, it's just going to get some injectors up top and some more fuel pump.
And then fuel pump.
Yeah.
Yeah, T's Good Time Garage. Yeah, you've already got a bounty on you. And is Is Wilburn in here still? Probably not. But John Wilburn, if you're in here, write that down already. And yeah, so it's already out there. And then we got about a minute left. Also, too, go and see Wilburn on Friday, 7 Central on his channel, so we can talk about more about the No Name Nationals. And yeah, and if we didn't cover something here, I'll be in the chats there too, so you can guys ask some questions or whatever. Oh, Akov, before we go out, he's got one question for you.
Okay, my car is still in many pieces, but I would like to continue helping out the AHRA with membership, so send out the emails where you're ready, and many like me will continue. Okay, well, I'll probably start doing that again. I don't know. I can only guess like May of this year. That's if we do it again. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. Everything is kind of a question mark right now. So, but if you really want to help out, go buy some merch on eBay. If you don't like doing that, give me a call. I can just mail it to you. I get people do that all the time. You know, hey man, send me a shirt. Okay, no problem.
And if we, once again, if there's a question we didn't get to and you guys want to hear an answer for it, a real answer, slightdailygarage@yahoo.com, and I'll get to it. If you wanted to see any of those pictures that I had for the Gen 3 Hemi, as far as the oiling system, I'll be glad to send those to you. Once again, slightdailygarage@yahoo. That way you can kind of see how it's sliced up and how the oiling system goes. So if you want to do some modifications, you can kind of look at it yourself. And you got anything you want to talk about, Dallas, before we get out of here?
No, not really. I think I'm done being talked at. Well, yeah. Roland won the burnout competition this year. That won't happen next year.
Absolutely not. Guaranteed. So, all right, let's give it up to Dallas for winning 2010-50 class. You're a tunnel ram.
Well, I was just kind of lucky that those real hammers didn't show up. So,
yeah. So, you know what's funny is I think all the people that were on Wilburn's live for the 28-10-50 talk their cars never made it.
Made it?
Oh, Redbeard didn't. I didn't, and I think that's it. That was it. Well, there was another guy there too. I think the Punisher Le Mans.
No, Punisher Le Mans was Ray. I bet you it was Ryan Wing from Streetcar Chronicles.
Could be. I don't remember.
Is there a bounty on me? Probably not. I mean, that'd be an easy pickings bounty. I mean, literally, I did not show up with a hammer, guys. To be honest with you, I was trying to fall in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
And
in fact, we talked about that many times. Just show up right in the middle of the pack and just get on the tree and then just be consistent and go down the track. Get an A to B tune-up.
I ran 6:13 was the fastest pass I made all weekend. The year before, Redbeard showed up running 5:50s. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I was pretty far off the mark. But, I mean, it is a naturally aspirated car, and it's a stock suspension car. It's not a tube chassis. It's not back half. It's something that any one of you could build in your own garage with just basic hand tools. Yeah. And that's really what my car is. You know, it's no secret. They gave me the Best Engineered Award for this year. But, I mean, I literally built that thing in a one-car storage unit with an outlet that you had to turn a knob every hour so the lights would stay on. It had one incandescent bulb in it. It took me 8 years to build that thing in between 5 deployments. It's nothing more than what any of you all could do at home. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm about. It's just a regular guy having fun with regular stuff, mm-hmm. And you know, that's what the AHRA was about.
Yeah, with my car, it's literally a junkyard block. 360-1 heads that anyone can go and get. It's the same thing. I've built everything on that thing is 66 darts, so there's really nothing made for it. Everything has had to be fabricated for real. So it's a leaf spring car, so there's nothing crazy about it. I am going to put an anti-roll bar on it though, in the rear. I have it. I just never put it on because I didn't have time. I was just going to go to this race and just try to make it through.
Well, that's another thing down here, one-eyed cat. Yeah, the secret to my success is it was a naturally aspirated bracket car, so it went point A to point B. It didn't break.
Yes. So. Yeah, you were within a couple hundreds.
Yeah, every pass.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, we're going to get out of here. We went a little over, but thanks for showing up. Thanks again. And once again, give it up to Dallas for winning. He would be the hero. I was the zero.
Not at all.
Anyways, you guys take it easy. We'll see you guys next week. Alrighty.
Chili tater tots.
Killer tater tots. So awesome.